report to the committee. He says, we ought forthwith to begin at least to reduce the laws and usages of the Aboriginal tribes to Aboriginal language, and print them, and direct our courts of justice to respect those laws. Why? Why, if they had jurisdiction, should they respect our laws? The reason being that the people knew, various of the people knew, or they all knew, there was those who chose not to take notice, but they all knew that the Aborigine people are sovereign. The Aborigine people in this land are sovereign. They have their own systems of laws. They cannot be usurped. It could not be done lawfully. He says, hence it is evident, according to Mr. Bannister's testimony, that the Aborigines of the colony have laws and usages of their own. Mr. Bannister also handed a paper to Mr. T. F. Buxton, chairman of the committee, dated 19th of August 1835, in which, under the heading of Measures Affecting the Swan River and Other New Australian Colonies, he makes the following statement. Make treaties with the natives before proceeding further. I'll just quote that slow and clear for the British so they're going to watch this. Make treaties with the natives before proceeding further. Also, in a letter from Mr. John Batman, we can read, and this letter was enclosed in a covering letter by Governor Arthur from Van Diemen's Land on the 4th of July 1835 to the Right Honourable T. Spring Rice, who was the then Lord Monteagle, and he was then Her Majesty's Colonial Secretary of State. Mr. Batman states, quote, the chiefs, that is, the chiefs of the Aboriginal tribes at Port Phillip, to manifest their friendly feelings towards me, insisted upon my receiving from them 2 native cloaks and several baskets made by the women, and also some of their implements of defence. The women generally are clothed with cloaks of a description somewhat similar, and they certainly appear to me to be of a superior race to any natives that I have ever seen. Thus, according to these statements respecting the Aborigines, it appears that they are by no means devoid of capacity, that they do have laws and usages of their own, that treaties should be made with them, like, when you start looking into the documents, the journals and the mementos of these, or memos that these people wrote, the insistence on the creation of a treaty or establishment of a treaty between the British government representatives and the Aborigine peoples, it's splattered all over the place. These references, these cries for a treaty to be made, are everywhere, but ignored every time. As a matter of fact, the fact that a treaty is not in place at this point in time clearly shows the belligerence of both the governments of Australia and England in respect of their utter belligerent refusal to respect the sovereign nature of the existence of the Aborigine peoples. They've done everything. They've moved this mob from over here into this mob's land, and then set this mob up to fight against that mob in their own land. So, you know, the old divide and conquer techniques, but it hasn't worked. Yeah, there's a few blackfellas out there that have taken the government purse. There's a few blackfellas out there that have sworn allegiance to the Bar Association and the Law Society to make $1. Yeah, well, everyone's got to survive. You know, it's always open to them to stand up and be counted for the truth. You know, it's up to them as to whether or not they take that offer to do that. But the offer door's always open, you know. It's not an offer that I can make, it's not an offer that anyone can make, it's an offer that they must make to themselves, and they must take up of their own accord. Surely they can see the truth the same as we can. It makes us wonder why they're on the other side. Not that there's sides in this argument. Also within the report is a statement. It's a very interesting statement. I'll just read it from the report. This is the parliamentary report. Much will depend on the manner in which this colony is considered to have been acquired, and this brings me in the second place to advert to the laws of nations as acknowledged by the British government with regard to colonial possessions. Now, the term law of nations means international law. That's what it was called at the time. Colonies, says Mr. Clark in his summary of the colonial law, and stated at the bar by Mr. Barry, are acquired by conquest. So here we have them saying that colonies are acquired by conquest, right? By secession under treaty, so that's the second one, or by occupancy. So they're either occupying vacant land, they're taking lands by someone giving up or acquiescing under treaty, or it is uninhabited country and they have just acquired it by conquest, or rather inhabited country acquired by conquest. Now, by occupancy, where an uninhabited country is, this is what the report says, by occupancy, where an uninhabited country is discovered by British subjects and is upon such discovery adopted or recognised by the British Crown as part of its possessions, that's the first method of taking possession or acquiring the land. In the case of a colony acquired by occupancy, the law of England, then in being, is immediately and ipso facto in force in the new settlement. Mr. Clark further states, the New South Wales and Van Diemen's Land were acquired by discovery or simple occupation. Now, New South Wales was not, however, unoccupied. As we have seen at the time, it was taken possession of by the colonists. A body of Aborigines appeared on the shore armed with spears which they threw down as soon as they found the strangers had no hostile intention. That is from Smythe's journal of the date, the time that this happened. Alright, 1788. This being the case, it does not appear that there was any conquest, because there was, if these people stood there and they had come to some tacit, unspoken agreement, you're not hostile towards us, we don't need to defend, there's no conquest. So it wasn't taken by conquest, it wasn't taken by any of the other two legally required methods. So obviously the Crown did not meet its own legal requirements in respect of taking possession of this land. It also says, and it is admitted that there has hitherto been no cession under treaty. And we know that. Mr. Howard, quite ironically, it's not ironic, it's quite understandable, Mr. Howard's mentor would be Robert Menzies, but we'll come to a statement by him later. It's interesting that Mr. Howard made the statement in 1996. One of the very first things he said when he came to power, there is no treaty between my government and Aboriginal people of Australia. Not a problem. We knew that, Mr. Howard. We knew we've never ceded sovereignty. You know, it was admitted by the British Parliament. The only people who can't admit it are you blokes. Now, protectors indeed have recently been appointed to certain lands set apart by order of government within the district for the location of Aborigines, but no more. This colony then stands on a different footing from some others, as it was neither an unoccupied place, nor was it obtained by right of conquest and driving out the natives, nor by treaties. So how did they take it? Oh, they just walked in and said, hang on, this is ours. Well, Burnham did that in London. And we know how farcical that was. Burnham himself, by doing this, acknowledged the farce of his claim for sovereignty over British land. But it wasn't himself that he was laughing at. And it's not Burnham that we laugh at when we think of that. We know and we acknowledge the idiocy of the British claim of sovereignty over us by doing the same thing. You know, someone walking onto your land and throwing a stick in the ground with a rag hanging off it and claiming it for someone else, or themselves. Stupidity. Utter stupidity. But one of the very interesting things, indeed, as Mr. M. Vattel very justly says, and this is Mr. Vattel was one of the members of Parliament at the time, whoever agrees that robbery is a crime, and this is a direct quote from the report. Whoever agrees that robbery is a crime and that we are not allowed to take forcible possession of our neighbour's property will acknowledge without any other proof that no nation has a right to expel another people from the country they inhabit in order to settle it herself.